Everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am legitimately so excited to talk about this video. I think this helicopter has the potential to be a game changer. I say that in all my videos, but I legitimately think the Leonardo AW09 could be perfect in my eyes. In this video, I'm going to make the case as to why I think this helicopter is potentially the closest thing we have to a perfect helicopter air ambulance, helicopter EMS. I think it's pretty close to perfect. So let's buckle up. Let's jump into the Leonardo AW09. Alright, so this is the Leonardo AW09, a beautiful looking helicopter. In this video, we're going to break down what is the AW09. We'll of course cover the technical specifications of this helicopter. I'm going to make the argument as why it's perfect in my eyes. We'll go through the project timeline and then we'll finish off with why it could fail, what I think the potential problem areas could be. So we'll start off with what is the Leonardo AW09. I'm going to call it the AW09 because it's easier. This is a single engine multi-role helicopter. It is currently under development by Leonardo. Leonardo acquired the program, but the helicopter is still quote unquote under development, but not yet in full production. The most important thing is this has had a crazy wild path to get to this point. Where in the project timeline area, we're going to go through how this helicopter actually developed. It is wild. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it'll come full circle. So a high level overview, just so you know what we're talking about. This is a modern single engine design. It's got a very spacious cabin. They say it can carry up to 8 passengers. Huge thing here, rear clamshell doors. That is a huge part of this. It is powered by a Safran Arriel 2K dual FADEC turbine engine. It's a single engine. This has a Garmin G3000 glass cockpit display. This is a 5-bladed main rotor, which is really nice. We'll talk about that. It's got a Fenestron tail rotor for enhanced safety and reduced noise. And I added this point that you may be asking, like, Devin, why did you talk about this? But this is a 12.2 foot tall helicopter, and it's not actually that much taller than like other helicopters in its class, but it feels extremely tall. It just, up close and personal, it feels really tall. So you're going to see on a picture I have how tall it really looks. So let's talk about some of the siblings. And siblings is kind of an interesting term. I decided to call it siblings, but there are a couple helicopters in this class, and people get confused about this because like there's all these Leonardo and AW and 119 and 09. It doesn't always make sense. So I want you to know about like the helicopters similar into its family. So of the siblings in this kind of class, you have the AW119, which is kind of the baby of the family, I'd call it, the AW09, which slots perfectly in the middle of the lineup, and then you have the AW109, which is like the big behemoth, the big papa of the family. We'll start with the AW119. Fun fact, this is my primary helicopter that I'm flying right now. I use this helicopter in my helicopter air ambulance job. This is the helicopter I fly. It is a single engine helicopter that is specifically built really well for EMS, VIP, law enforcement, etc. These are also used in the Gulf of America for offshore oil rig flying. Now this is based on the AW109, the Big Papa helicopter, but this is the single engine version. There is a standard VFR version, but they came out with the Mark II, which has better payload capacity and it has greater efficiency, and it's IFR, single pilot, single engine IFR. The version I fly is the Mark II, the single engine, single pilot IFR version. Also, another fun fact, the Navy selected the AW119 as its primary helicopter trainer. It is known as the TH-73 Alpha. It's just a version of the 119. In the middle of the family, we have the AW09. That's what this video is about. It's a single engine multi-role helicopter. It's got a more spacious cabin than the 119 for better passenger space for passengers and cargo. It's got a projected higher cruise speed and range in comparison to the 119, modern glass cockpit. It's currently in development, and the biggest thing that you're going to see in this video is I think the AW09 is the 119 made better. And then you have the AW109. This is a very popular light twin engine helicopter. It's known for its performance and versatility. This is also used in kind of the same categories: EMS, VIP, law enforcement, etc. This offers twin engine redundancy for safety. We'll talk about that and my opinions on that. This is a very established and mature platform. So there you go. You have and the numbers, it's kind of confusing. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but you have the 119, the 09, and then the 109. All right, moving on, we have the tech specs. So Leonardo has put together some like really great graphics, and Copter has put together some really great graphics. Right here, you just have just a general picture. You've got the gearbox, the main rotor, the cowlings, shrouded finish on tail rotor, aerodynamic package, crash-worthy fuel system, cargo hold and rear access, multi-purpose landing skids, non-structural, interchangeable, flat floor, big deal, cabin size, Garmin G3000 glass cockpit. I just want to state that I think this is a really strong looking helicopter. Some helicopters look weird, some helicopters don't look that great. I think this helicopter actually looks pretty good. I think they did a good job with the design. So in terms of tech specs, we'll just go through these real quick. Capacity, 1 pilot up to 8 passengers. It's got a max speed of 140 knots, a maximum range and endurance of 430 nautical miles, 5 hours of endurance. It's got a max takeoff power of 1,000 shaft horsepower. Max takeoff weight with the internal load is 6,200 pounds. Max takeoff weight with external load is 6,600 pounds. Its sling load capacity is 3,300 pounds. And we already said this, but it is powered by a single Safran Arriel 2K dual FADEC turbine engine, which is great for redundancy. They have some distinctive features. I'll let you read through that on your own. I'll throw all the links to where I found all my information down below, but I want to continue because the good stuff is what really matters about this helicopter. So Leonardo put together this pretty good video, and I want to pull that up real quick. We are going to play this, and I'll jump down here into the corner. I'm going to turn the volume down because it doesn't really matter, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but they put together this really good graphic, and I think it actually looks really good. So it's a 5-bladed rotor system, advanced main rotor head, comfortable flight, and high performance, cockpit, high visibility. One thing that's really cool is they have these high visibility door options, and I actually think this looks really good. And you can see on some of their product mock-ups, actually some of the helicopters they have flying, they've got these windows, and I think it looks phenomenal. Really strong on the UV radiation on like hot sunny days, but I think it actually looks really good. Let's continue on here. Large cabin volume. Here you go. Rear clamshell doors. This is huge. In comparison to the 119, which I use for EMS, this is going to be one of the biggest factors you're going to see. The rear clamshell doors are like massive. Shrouded tail rotor, safe and quiet. Yes, it is quieter and 100% safer. This is another point I'm going to make as to why I think it's maybe perfect. Crash-worthy airframe. That's great. Dual redundant hydraulic system. You kind of have to have that in an IFR helicopter. You need dual hides. Main rotor gearbox, compact innovative design, that's great. Electrical system, dual redundant, you also need that for IFR. 1,000 shaft horsepower engine. The fuel system. So how the fuel system works is there is a fuel tank on the right side, the left side, and then the bottom floor, and then that gives you that full open rear clamshell. Garmin G3000 with touch control, your main touch controller, and then the G3000. I think this looks absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I love Garmin products. So simple, innovative. And then they go through all of the different configurations, and that's actually what we're going to go through here. We're going to go through all the different configurations of the helicopter. Let's see. All right, so you've got the baseline. This is like their standard configuration. 1 or 2 pilots, 4 to 5 passengers. Actually, and I'm going to come back over here. There you go. 1 to 2 pilots, 4 to 5 passengers, forward-facing seats, baggage or cargo, large baggage compartment area. I think that's great. And I also love the rear clamshell for just like getting stuff out, because you can just pop that open, and if you've got bags, I think it's great. They have the air van. I think this is so fun. I think this is the most fun layout. Can you imagine just like you and your coworkers, or you and your friends in the back of the helicopter here, and you guys are all just like talking, hanging out? I think this is so fun. I think it's great. Here's what we're really going to spend the time talking about in this video is helicopter EMS. Now, I'm going to talk about the AW09 in the sense of helicopter air ambulance and helicopter EMS, because that's what I do, and it's just the interesting niche that I found myself in. So we're going to talk about it in that way. So the layout they have here, and this is what is on the Leonardo website, so a lot of nuance here, but this is the EMS layout that they have here. 1 to 2 pilots, 2 or 3 medical quote-unquote assistants. For any of you medical personnel out there, you're not medical assistants, you're clinical providers in my eyes. You're very important, not just assistants. And 1 stretcher. Interesting note, is this actually going to be a stretcher system or a litter system? Is this litter going to come off and it doesn't actually have wheels, and then, you know, like the helicopter I have doesn't have a stretcher, it's just a litter, and my clinical crew would like a stretcher. So if this is actually a stretcher, I think it's great. Talking about this helicopter here, so this actual configuration, you have the pilot seat in the forward right, and then maybe a co-pilot there. Sure, that's fine. And then you have, this would typically be the nurse seat right here, and then the paramedic seat. And then I actually have filmed this video a couple times, and one thing that I pointed out with this EMS configuration was like, this is great and all, but the biggest complaint I have about this, and this is actually the exact cabin layout that I have in the AW09 that I fly right now, is there's no real airway seat. Like, there's no good. Paramedics, from what I've heard, like to have a proper airway seat if they have to do intubations. It's tough to do compressions if also the paramedic and the nurse are sitting right here. Like, sideways compressions are kind of hard. If you are at the head of the patient, it's easier to do compressions that way. Now, we do have a Lucas device, which is like an automated compression system, but it's not the greatest. The other thing that I asked is like, okay, where's the oxygen system going to go? And clinical crews fly with like a lot of bags, backpacks and stuff. So once you have the patient loaded up, where are all the bags going to go? Because this doesn't look like a ton of area. And if you come over here, right behind the patient seat, if you can see my mouse right over here, it doesn't look like a ton of area. So I made some critiques about that. After I filmed the first version of this video, I found some more information, and this is not really promoted that well, but this is actually some Leonardo advertisements of how they have their cabin layout for EMS, and this changes my whole perspective of this. This is huge. You have the same 2 seats, so you have a nurse seat, and then you have a paramedic seat. But what? This front left passenger seat can rotate, and I'll actually show you the video, can rotate, and this becomes an airway seat. This right here was the thing that like absolutely sealed the deal for me as like the perfect helicopter air ambulance. I'm going to talk about why you don't need 2 engines in a single engine platform. If you had this actual layout, I think this is great. You have your ventilator right here, which is great. Monitor right here. Here is your oxygen. I also question like where you're going to store all this stuff. I mean, it's still a little bit tough with the bags, like the scene bag and the med bag, whatever med bags they have, but you can throw those on the side. You can make room for that. Maybe, I don't know if there's I don't think there's a baggage compartment, but you can make room for that on the back wall. But to have like, and if you have a team job, so where we fly at my operation, we have a paramedic and a nurse. Sometimes we do a team job, you know, where you need a 3rd medical provider. Well, now you actually have the space for that. Or if you're flying like a child and you want to fly the parent, you can bring that parent along and they can probably be forward facing. But the fact that this seat can rotate around in this version is crazy. This changes everything. But is it legit? I haven't seen this like talked about that much on the Leonardo promotional websites, but on the Leonardo promotional stuff, but I'll show you what they have on there. A question I do have about this is in the 119, one thing that we do have that I really like is the pilot seat is the right seat, obviously, and then the left seat cannot rotate. It's just like forward facing. But one thing that we do have is we have an NVG curtain, a blackout, like it's like a rubber material and it's a cushion and it goes in between. So if you're working on a patient at night, you can just close that NVG curtain and then I can fly with my NVGs, keep it real dark and spooky up front. And in the back, they can have it turned up like an operating room, real bright. They can work on their patient. Is there going to be that option here? I don't know. I know some people definitely fly like in the 407 and the EC130 and they can still do NVG in the the clinicians can work on in the back, but I don't know, that's one thing to think about. But let's see, let's go to this video. Yes, hold on, sorry, let me pull this over and I'm gonna drag this over. Give me 1 sec. All right, so when we go to the timeline, you're gonna see that this helicopter was actually from the Copter group, and this was called the Copter SH09, and that's the Leonardo AW09. But this video was uploaded 4 years ago, and it's still up on their website. So let's play through this. I'm gonna actually mute this because it's only a minute long, but this is like the video that made me say like, oh, okay, they're really onto something here. I thought it was just that original med configuration, but no, it's this, and this is like, this is the big deal here. Next generation technology, unmatched cabin versatility, outstanding performance. So, actually, you know what? I'll just let it play through. Sliding door on the side, 2 seats. rotatable airway paramedic seat. Wait, sorry, you can't even see that. Let me move me real quick. Left seat, rotatable, slide back and forth. Man, look at that. Clamshell doors, stretcher. They're saying the stretcher in this video. And then, yeah, I mean, you can see, okay, we've got maybe drips. I have no idea. I think those are maybe drips, monitor, ventilator, and then stretcher. And then this goes all the way forward. I mean, it's a little, like if someone leans back, they can bump into the cyclic, but maybe you're not fine with that secondary cyclic. Maybe that's like not a real thing. But man, this as like a single engine platform, I don't know what more I would change. You got oxygen right there. It's pretty good. Flat floor, 2 seats, maybe a little bit of storage for your bags right there. But I mean, in terms of helicopter air ambulances, I think this is pretty close. This is pretty close to perfect. I think they really have done something here. Clamshell doors. Oh, and then it can also go at the side. Maybe that's useful. I don't know. When maybe there's definitely a use case for that. But look at that, man. That's something. That's something. All right, let's go back. All right, so just quickly here, as I was going through the promotional content and I was just like doing a little bit of research about this, I found this. I don't know if this wasn't really promoted that well, but I was like, okay, this is a single engine helicopter. And then I was looking up here and I was like, what is these? Like, what am I looking at here? And I was like, okay, well, one of those is a rotor brake. Obviously that makes sense. And then the other one, what is that? And then I was like, is that like a power lever? Like typically seen in like a multi-engine helicopter? And indeed it is. So yes, this is a power lever. And then I was like, am I sure? So then I was going through this video. This one was actually from Aviation International News. Great video. Shout out to them. This is the cyclic, or excuse me, this is the collective. The collective does not have a twist grip throttle. And I have to say, this is the first time I've ever seen a single engine helicopter without a twist grip throttle. It's just extremely rare. A couple of the pros of the throttle like this is very common that you would see in multi-engine helicopters. I've got some time in the Sikorsky S-76. It's very similar to that. Like Blackhawks, I'm pretty sure like the 139, Sikorsky S-92, very large helicopters, they have power levers up here. They don't have twist grip throttles, but for a single engine helicopter, this is kind of rare. Pros: ergonomics, less wrist fatigue, comfortable on long duration flights, cockpit standardization, similar feel to multi-engine helicopters. So if you're going from like a multi-engine helicopter to a single, this would feel better. Stable settings, you're less likely to accidentally bump or adjust unintentionally. Totally true. Collective simplicity, frees up space for extra switches and ergonomic grips. I love flying with a collective that has that's not a twist grip, that has more buttons and physical positions. If you have like some collective trim and you want to like trim out your collective to a set position, I really enjoy having that. Cons: initial learning curve. It's a little bit weird. It's less intuitive if you're used to a twist grip throttle. In an emergency, there's more complexity. There might be a little of a brain gap if you're not used to it. A slower reaction time for critical scenarios and training. If you have like an engine out and you need to reduce throttle for like an auto-rotative procedure. If you have like a tail rotor failure and you need to reduce torque and reduce the throttle, maybe there's a little bit of brain gap. Eyes off control, requires brief attention overhead away from the outside view. If you remember that 407 accident, the nice thing about a twist grip throttle is you don't have to look at the throttle to be able to manipulate it. If you watch that video that I made about the 407 accident, I will link to it right here and down below. The pilot's throttle came out of the fly detent. If he had rotated to the fly, I'm armchair quarterbacking here, but if he had rotated the throttle to fly and had felt that detent, his RPMs would have came back and he would have brought back full engine power. So in those emergency situations, there's more mental connection for some pilots and they don't have to bring their eyes up off the collective. But with the overhead throttle lever up here, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Fine adjustments, it's slightly less intuitive for rapid small RPM or torque changes, but you can get used to it. So I really like this. They've definitely put a lot of thought into it. It's more complex, but I think it's great. I think it's probably a safer design. When you need that throttle, I mean, it's great to have it on the collective, but I can understand why they did it. So before this video gets too long, let's summarize why it's perfect. It is essentially everything that you want, eliminating what you don't need. And I want to say that these are my opinions. I'm specifically talking about helicopter, air ambulance, helicopter EMS. So here's the biggest point: single engine, you don't need two. The EC135, the EC145, the new EC140, the AW109, the Bell 429, etc., etc. These are all cool but expensive. You are paying for twice the fuel burn, twice the parts. There's more failure points, and there's unnecessary connections and architecture to make all the fuel systems work. Turbine engines do fail, but it's extremely rarely. So is it worth paying for double the fuel, double the maintenance, double the parts when you have to replace everything? Is it worth it? I don't think so. The rarity of a turbine engine failing is so low. It just, in my eyes, I don't think it's worth it. Rear clamshell, better than side loading. Sure, side loading works. The helicopter I have, the 119, we do a side loading litter and it's fine. But if we're talking about why it's perfect, I think the rear clamshell door loading is better. It's safer. Actually, talking about safer, Fenestron. Yes, you have less tail rotor authority, but in my opinion, it is 1,000,000,000,000,000% worth it because of safety and crew confidence. As the pilot, if I'm staying hot, if we land on a scene and I'm keeping the blades spinning, I have so much more confidence knowing that that tail rotor back there, it's much harder for someone to walk into and get hurt versus an exposed tail rotor. All it takes is 1 second and you've got problems. For me, for my crew, everyone is safer with the Fenestron, so I really like that. This has a 5-bladed rotor system. Yes, it is a bit overkill, but I will take it. You do have problems with complexity and blade order times. If you listen to that interview I did with the CEO of Robinson Helicopter Company, David Smith, he talked about how helicopters are just sitting waiting for blades, and it's hard to get blades for certain operators. And that's definitely true. So with 5 blades, I mean, it is harder, but with 5 blades, you do get a smoother, faster ride. And one thing you have to talk about is operator and crew performance. I mean, there is like this inherent bias that people have towards more blades. They think more blades is safer, and in some cases more blades is safer. Now, most pilots understand that you can fly 2, 3, 4 bladed system safely for sure, but people just believe that more blades is better, so that helps with crew confidence and operator confidence. Not the biggest point, but it is important. I enjoy it. Single engine, single pilot IFR capable. For inadvertent IMC, the safety is magnified. If a pilot goes inadvertent IMC and with a glass cockpit, they can still have an accident and get themselves into a lot of trouble. But with a fully IFR capable helicopter and a system that is ready for it and built for it, your safety is magnified exponentially, so I think that's great. The G3000 is great for safety and ease of use, and I think it looks good. I think the AW09 is a fantastic looking helicopter. Why it's potentially not perfect? It's a 9 out of 10 for EMS. The med layout options are legit. If they are actually able to get that forward left seat rotatable and make that an airway or a paramedic seat, then that seals the deal for me. If that seat doesn't rotate, then it's not much different than the 119, the AW119. I just think that would be a really big deal. So I really hope they can do it. Gear and devices. If you're flying with a lot of gear and backpacks and bags, storage is kind of a concern. And then devices, like if you have an Impella or other med devices, I don't even know where are all those going to go. Is there enough space? But I think they have thought about these things, and I think it's great. Super tall. I think this is a super tall helicopter. I saw this out at Heli Expo a couple years ago, and I walked up to it and I was like, dang. It's a tall helicopter. It just feels really tall. I don't know how tall these gentlemen are. You know, they look of average height, you know, maybe 5'9" to 6 foot, whatever. It looks like if you draw a straight line over, it looks like they could walk under that helicopter. And actually, if you watch that video that I've linked underneath my video to Aviation International News, the chief test pilot, I think he says that he can walk under the tail rotor. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure he says that he can walk under the tail rotor. Nonetheless, it's just a very tall helicopter. 12.2 feet. If these gentlemen are 6 feet, double the height. I'm not worried about people walking into the drooping rotor blades. Even if they're fully down, I don't think they go that low. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I think this is a pretty tall helicopter. You can walk under the Fenestron or walk under the tail boom. It's not the greatest place to walk, but I think it's fine. Project timeline, let's just quickly run through this. I pulled this information from Wikipedia. I put it together so it's like a 50% chance of accuracy, but this has been like a crazy project timeline. This was not a Leonardo project initially. How it's come about is interesting. So in 2002, a guy named Martin Stuckey, who was a mechanical engineer and commercial helicopter pilot, initiated design work on a design that led to the SH-09. In 2009, sufficient financing had been secured from investors, which allowed for the SH-09 to be formally launched that year. In October of 2014, it had its first flight. In 2018, the company was rebranded to Copter. In 2020, Leonardo buys Copter for 185 million. So that's where Leonardo comes in 2020. So only 5 years ago, not that long ago. And then the most recent updates in recent months, engine icing tests have been completed with Safran, bird strike windshield tests have progressed, and main and tail rotor fatigue testing have finished. Now, first serial production aircraft P6 has entered the final assembly line in Italy. That's from a Leonardo press release on March 13th of 2025. So about 2 weeks ago, Leonardo said that. So this helicopter is absolutely happening. It's absolutely moving forward. Let's talk about why it could fail. There could be timeline delays. Project could face further delays in certification or production. That's a given for developing a new aircraft. It's just very long. Initial reliability. Aircraft have early technical issues, aka gremlins. There's typically years of gremlins. A manufacturer will produce an aircraft and it'll get certified and everything, and then they'll release these out to operators. And for a while, typically people have problems. People find things, systems fail. They have to re-engineer and refine their design a little bit and fix things. It's usually fine, but there's always little things that you got to fix. So I don't think that it's necessarily going to cause it to fail, but it could be a problem. Certification hurdles, long and complex certification from aviation authorities, FAA and EASA. It's just a long process to get a new aircraft certified, a new design. It's very lengthy, very expensive, so that could be a problem. Market competition, very strong competition from established helicopter manufacturers like Bell, Airbus, Robinson. Everyone is kind of vying for this single engine EMS platform. The 407, the A-Star, the EC130, the Robinson R88, these are all kind of right in that same class and category. So there's a lot of competition here, which I believe is a good thing. Production quality, challenges in scaling up production while maintaining quality. It's also very hard to find supplies and raw materials to build and turn into a helicopter. This ties in with the economic downturn, potential impact of demand due to economic conditions. No one knows how the economy is going to go. The economy goes up and the economy goes down, and all of this affects timing for projects like this. Unexpected technical problems, unforeseen technical issues during development or operation. That's just like a catch-all because it's very hard to produce a helicopter. But my thoughts on this. Even with the usual project bumps, I'm taking the over position. The desire for this helicopter is strong, and I think Leonardo knows they have something that people want. I think they know they are onto something. There has been a lot of hype in the pilot community, in the helicopter air ambulance community, in the just aviation and helicopter operators community. Final thoughts on this, I love it. I think it's a winner in my eyes. That airway seat, if they can actually do that rotatable airway seat, huge. Huge. Supply chain problems are real, and that could really hurt its success. The economy and finding supplies is challenging. But yeah, in general, this gets a B++ from me. But I want to know what you think. If you had to rate it, what would you rate it? I think a B++ is like pretty good. I think there's a couple things I would change, but in general, I think this is pretty close to perfect. I really think if they are able to deliver this product, they have a winner on their hands. I do not believe you need a multi-engine helicopter for the vast majority of helicopter air ambulance operations. If you're over New York City, if you're over water, okay, that's one thing, because if you have an engine failure, you're in a really, really bad spot. But in general, over the vast area where helicopters are operating, over like the mainland US, mainland anywhere, any portion of land, if you have an engine failure, you can do an auto rotation. That's what helicopters are great at. I don't think you need two engines. So I think this single engine helicopter is great. And the design, the cabin layout design of this is what makes it a game changer. The Garmin G3000 is great. The Fenestron is great. The rear clamshell doors are great. They have really, really thought of something here. So I think if they are able to bring this to market, I think they really could do it here. But I want to know what your thoughts are. What do you think about the Leonardo AW09, the Copter, the SH09? It's had a bunch of different iterations, but I want to know your thoughts. Do you think this design is pretty good? What would you change? What do you like? Do you think they're going to be able to bring it to market? I want to know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Hey, if you found yourself enjoying this video, smash the like button, subscribe for all kinds of helicopter content, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.